Hello, everyone. Kelly Hilton here from the San Ramon Valley Unified School District, and I am pleased to be here with two high school educators at one of our leading high schools, San Ramon Valley High School. And these two educators are here today to talk to us about how they are building AI literacy and what is a high school campus approach for students and staff in the age of AI and instruction. So I want to first welcome both of them and have them introduce themselves. We have Lauren Milani, the high school science teacher, and Hanna Love, our teacher librarian. So Lauren, tell us a little bit about yourself and your educational journey that led to you to where you are now.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having us. I'm the forensic science teacher at San Ramon Valley High School. My claim to fame is I developed the forensic science curriculum from scratch. So it's been a big passion project of mine. And I've served for about 9 years as an educator. I have multiple science degrees, including in biology and public health, along with a master's in education and a data science certification. So obviously, I love education.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lauren, for your dedication to public education. And now we're going to hear from Hanna Love and a little bit about you and your background that led you in your career to where we are now.
Yes. So this is my 11th year teaching. I have been in the district the whole time since I started as a 22-year-old, fresh out of Cal Poly. Went immediately into the Cal State East Bay credential program where I interned at Monte Vista, which was my alma mater. So it was a nice place to start. And then was there for another year. And then I went to Doherty as an English teacher for 8 years. When I decided that I wanted to be able to reach more students, that I wanted to be able to create a safe space for students. And I noticed that I could do that more so and have a bigger impact as a teacher librarian. Taking the courses, I became obsessed with essentially a lot of the things that I was doing as an English teacher lended itself to being a librarian. Everybody is shocked by this. There's a lot of teacher librarians that were English teachers first because how the curriculum really can kind of go together. But what's been interesting is the informational part of my job. I was able to prepare a lot for the literacy aspects, for the reading and writing aspects, hosting big workshops for SAT, all of that. But we were thrown a bit of a curveball when AI kind of came into our library community. And just like any librarians do, all of us, and by all of us, I mean like librarians across the nation, across the world, all of a sudden got together online, was like, okay, what are we going to do with this? How are we going to support our patrons? Which is kind of how we got to become friends.
Amazing. I mean, I think that's an understatement, right? Of just like a little bit of a curveball, a little bit with AI as a teacher librarian and as a science teacher. I think we've all been trying to keep up as it continues to evolve. And in San Ramon, we started talking about AI right away, starting in 2022. And we had the opportunity during that time, the first couple of years after, to train teachers with job embedded training. But we had to shift our model as many districts in our district is struggling with some budget changes, and the model became after school. And so Hanna and I met when she was part of that group in the past couple of years. And this year, she's continued to lead on campus and partnered with Lauren on how to continue the messaging. But without that resource, they've still had a really high impact. So I just want to acknowledge you both on that work and thank you for that. And they're going to kind of tell us how they started collaborating because it really just had to happen boots on the ground at your site. And these leaders and teachers everywhere are grappling with this, but we need teachers like yourselves to help the conversation. So how did you two start partnering in this work?
Do you want to start?
Oh, gosh. Why don't you go ahead and start,
okay.
And then I'll jump in.
Sounds good. I just don't want to talk the whole time because I will.
Okay.
When all this kind of started, we was the teacher librarians. So the teacher librarian team, we are really tight-knit. We are really close. And some of the most supportive women I've ever, and men too, I've ever been able to work with. They just kind of took me under their wing. And one of those things was about AI. and about teacher training, and learning that that is one of the many, many tenets of being a teacher librarian, where you are the hub of campus, and also you're kind of put in this role where you are able to be a mentor. And kind of trying to take that role on, I realized that I needed to be able to also have other mentors around you, right? Where just as there's a lot of professional research around how important it is to have a mentor, and I wanted to be able to find those people and who would be interested in mentoring me also with AI. So I came to Charlie Litton, is our principal. Him and I work closely together constantly about all of this, and him and I've been in close contact with AI, and we've decided to take the approach of what our the whole admin team talks about, being about Kaizen. So here at Ramon Valley High, one of the big drivers and one of the big visions that our admin team emphasizes is about small changes and making those small changes to make those small improvements for a larger change later. And I just loved that. And I was like, okay, Charlie, what can I do? How can I be a small change? Because I tend to be a big personality and I'm kind of scaring people away. And so he's like, okay, slow down. It's going to be fine. And he just said, you need to find the people in each department who is interested in the same work that you are. I was like, okay. So I don't have a team. There's a lot, Cal High and Doherty Valley both have 2 teacher librarians, and then those 2 actually also have LMCs. So what that means is that there's 3 librarians at their 2 sites and only 1 at ours. And that limits what the teacher librarian can do, including running AIPD all by myself. And I'm also running the library when I'm also teaching curriculum and supporting teachers and meeting with teachers and creating curriculum for them and creating research projects for them, and wherever people are letting me into their classrooms, and then they come into the library. So while I'm juggling all that, I also wanted to make sure that our students and our staff wasn't falling behind. Essentially, since I knew that our teacher librarians were leading these PDs, I needed to find a way to find the people who are interested in this just as much as I am. And so I said, hey, join my club if you're interested. And not club, but team. And then Lauren helped me to make it actually a functional, more than just an idea.
Yeah, what I remember is that you advertised it at a meeting, that we were having an all-staff meeting. And I thought, wow, what a wonderful opportunity to support the other educators who've so shaped me as an educator, because this is something that is impacting every industry, and that includes education. So how do we cope with these big changes in how we work? And so Hanna is just an amazing educator, and she really undersells herself. She wears so many hats here, but it just was kind of a natural thing. And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like we kind of share the same brain some days.
Yes.
So you structure me, I structure you. So
you guys look at each other, right? As you said, still on the camera.
Absolutely. It's been a wonderful partnership, but we couldn't do it without the rest of the SRV AI educator team. So we're so grateful for them. And then we've been so very lucky. We've gotten great support from admin. Dave Miller, my administrator, has been very supportive. He set aside time for me to come on this podcast. And of course, we want to shout out Chris De Leclerc, Mr. Kaizen himself. He's always telling us small baby steps. And that's been one of the big drivers in when we get together as a team, we meet, we're talking about how can we make small changes that will have big impact.
What a great philosophy you guys have at your school. You know, that's just like from leadership to the partnership across departments, and the shared understanding that with the resources we have an obligation to lean into this new technology and build a learning community to support our students. So that is a wonderful positive impact. So once you guys got together and you started collaborating, what did that look like? How did you start to put some plans together in place to tackle what a lot of high schools are working on right now? What were your first steps?
Yeah, I had the team meet, and then we created a survey together. And so that's what was kind of unique, was that we were able to put together, we all have, I mean, I've taken classes on survey research. And so that was my wheelhouse. But there were certain questions that I was wording that people like Elena Harding and Cindy and Cindy Sakira, who know our campus, knew how to frame those questions better. And so after we made that survey, that kind of drove our PD, because we found out that admin such as Charlie, Craig Box, and Kim Murray, all of us want to learn how to do the best we can and how to best support our students, but we need those supports as well.
Yeah, because we want to proactively understand how AI is going to alter the future of education rather than just reacting to it later.
Yeah, so you started to realize, like any good teachers, you need to collect some data, right? And the data you wanted to collect, how did you collect that data, and what kind of data? What did you learn?
Yeah, admin was wonderful at each of their meetings, and then also at department ITL meetings. I always say that wrong. Is that right? ITL? Okay.
ILT.
I knew I said it wrong.
It's close enough.
The other one is the one that I was also a part of. The department leads. So where our admin would be able to tell each of their specific departments. So again, we were then able to collect that data, and people signed up and filled out those through a Google form. And then we analyzed the data and looked through everything, and it was super interesting, especially because we wanted to actually use some of the AI tools. And so we were able to use some AI tools also to kind of help us to go through that data.
Absolutely. And
after we looked at it ourselves, because
I think the data was very informative. I mean, it showed us that there's a genuine interest and a genuine need to understand how generative AI is going to change the face of education.
Yes.
And how can we maximize this to support our students, let alone other educators? And it was very informative. So we've been designing work around that. One of the bigger takeaways we had too was that each department has their own specific need set for what they specifically require. So what humanities requires versus what the science department requires are very different things. Do want to shout out my science department, of course. They were so wonderful. They let us go in. They were one of the very first departments that let us do a presentation and provided us with feedback on how that presentation went. So we're very, very fortunate to have them be so open-minded.
Amazing. So you collect this data, you're starting to see that it's really, you wanted to tackle this by departments at your high school. And you started with the high school science department. And what did that look like? Did you do some training with them? Was it more collaborative? How did you guys take this from theory to the classroom in the science department?
Absolutely. So we just started with some professional development geared towards the science department. We talked about, what it might look like in use in the classroom. We came up with some examples together as a department of how that might be implemented. And then we experimented with one of the ideas that we had, specifically for a high school biology classroom or curriculum. How would it fit into the scope and sequence of a high school biology class? And it was interesting to see how that played out. We specifically focused on prompt engineering, because that is going to definitely be one of the big skills of the future, is one of the big takeaways we've had. And yet so many people feel very uncomfortable with doing this very straightforward skill, or have a lot of questions about, well, how can I better do this?
Right. So what does that look like in a science classroom if you're prompting? And I mean, I know there's many examples, but did you standardize your prompt? Did you have different ways of using AI? How did you align on that?
So one of the things we did is we did go back and we looked at the standards, and then we pulled from the standards, and then we took kind of your classic lesson plan, and then we said, okay, let's teach on top of this. Well, how would we do an AI prompt to devise a special organism, and have basically our prompt create a picture of an organism? So it was very kind of a creative project, and then kind of fill in some of the data points. And that was just kind of a fun example of how it could be utilized in a classroom setting. So it's definitely been something that we've enjoyed working on, but it's definitely been standard based and definitely driven by the standards because we're all very familiar with those.
Of course. I love how you said you had to just first layer on the topic of AI. I mean, that's kind of the call to action right now for everyone because it is available. So, really thinking about that, what is that layer of AI and giving direction, very specific directions on how you can and cannot use it, right? And that probably leads more into that ethical conversation that I know you both have had lots of conversations about and the lessons around that. So once you aligned with some of your lessons, what did you guys do next?
So next steps.
The one thing I did want to jump in and say was what is really cool about our team is that we have almost one person representing each department. And so what I had, what I wanted to do was I wanted to have a department person be presenting to their department. Instead of it coming from this outside source, I wanted it to be like, hey, this is hard. We're all in this together. This is what I have found to be successful. Because what I've learned that by piecing it together and saying like, hey, this is what works for me. It might not work for you. I think is what can be great about AI is that you can make it so specific as humanly possible, as machine possible, I should say, to be able to make it work for whatever purpose you need it to. So by having it come from each department separately, I think it really,
look at that.
I don't know, I think that it kind of came off a little better.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, it's been great when it comes from peers. In fact, Katie Henderson ran that particular PD for us, that first PD in the science department. And she did an amazing job coming up with all sorts of great ideas to kind of support the conversation around this. We're definitely thinking about how do we provide a roadmap for academic integrity as well as student work ethics? How do we support kids with this?
And ensure critical thinking is still at the forefront and deep learning.
We're not losing, there's no cognitive offloading, basically.
Exactly.
Because when we do that, then we have issues with transfer. We're not learning, right?
Well, I think that is one of the things that we figured out with prompt engineering was that you and I kind of said, okay, what makes a good prompt? Because that was one of the things that we found was really hard. Was because I was a part of the informational technology team, we used what's called parts. I think that you said, Kelly, that was from Google.
Yes, Google has a prompt called parts.
Yeah, and that didn't mean much to me. I instead always come from, again, I try not to, but sometimes I get to put on my English teacher hat. And one of those times it was like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And so instead we came up with COAST. And so with COAST, it's all about starting with context and providing what role do you want your AI to play. I have found that has been able to help me to figure out, okay, what role and what task does it need to do, and then what constraints need to come with that. Those kind of three things. It's helpful to do. We have all 5 of them, which is even more specific and even more formulaic to be able to help and be able to say, okay, here you go. So you don't have to make a form on your own. This is what you can do in order to be able to best use AI.
Yeah, and we just kind of sat down. To be honest, we met during one of my prep periods, and I said, "Hey, I have an idea. Let's improve this."
Yeah.
And Hannah was super open-minded, and working together, we came up with this. And it's something now that we're using when we do go into departments and present it. Because we've presented in a couple other departments that have been kind enough to provide us with this time and space to help kind of support them in maneuvering this brand new field that is happening and coming up in every industry, right? So it's in a constant state of flux too.
Yeah.
So not only do you kind of take ownership of your staff conversation by talking to a leader in each department and empowering them to be a part of your group and have the conversation so that they can present to their peers, which is, by the way, one of the most effective ways to lead professional learning than any other professional development in your environment. And then secondly, you guys really redefined your own prompting, the level of prompting as a community with your COAST acronym, which I love because, we're California girls. It's like, I'm actually a Pisces, so it just fits with the water sign.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Are you too?
Pisces.
Oh my God, we're all
I think we're all,
Pisces.
yeah. We're all
like
California natives. Yeah.
And all Cali girls,
Yeah, all
yes.
Cali girls, yeah.
all Cali girls. But the more specific, like what is the context? Why are you using this? Is like really is what I'm hearing you say. What is the objective of why you're using it? Who's the audience? What's your structure and what's your tone? And so now what that's providing for your students at your high school is consistency. Now that you have that. So when they're in a science class or they're in in the library learning a lesson on ethics, they're prompt. Everyone's speaking the same language, which is really got another effective way to lead this work. I love that. So I want to just skip a little bit next to. I know you've been working with departments, but Hannah, as the media specialist librarian who wears all the hats and also teaches less specific lessons, right?
Yes.
I know that your extended professional learning network in San Ramon is really helpful. We have an amazing group of teacher librarians across all the sites and very collaborative on teaching the media specialist standards too. So what does that look like for you when you're teaching lessons specifically and collaborating with this group? And how are you making those decisions and moving that needle?
I'm so glad you asked that. We love talking about our standards, especially because a lot of people don't know that library actually does have standards. And it really is, Kelly, you're the best. You're like, yes, I know.
I love our library.
You guys
are an amazing group. Yes.
Oh, thank you. I'm lucky to be one of them. They're just amazing. And so digital citizenship is one of our main tenets. Research is one of our main tenets. Thank you. And because of that, we have to make sure that whatever I'm teaching, also going with both the specific, whoever I'm like working with, their standards, as well as my library standards, which our library standards are pretty, again, it's just more so it's about organizing the library, of course. It's about cataloging in the library and maintaining the library, but it's also about literacy and how do we make sure that we are digital literacy specifically. And they're amending those to see, like, should AI be one of those tenets. And so we have really, again, librarians have essentially kind of taken up across the nation that this is our wheelhouse. This is informational literacy is a part of our name. So I'm not just we don't just have credentials and or masters in library science. It's library and informational science.
Right.
And because of that background, we are so fortunate to have teachers who are willing to have us teach those standards to our students. Because yes, essentially we have, the team has made an entire spreadsheet of, as a ninth grader, you should be able to, yes, write a thesis, but you should also be able to use a search engine. And as a 10th grader, you should be able, so we have an entire thing that Nikki Ogden and Lauren Dowd and Alicia Martin and really all of them, we all got together one day, we had a day away, and we were able to align and decide what should each of our students be able to walk away from our schools with.
Awesome. And so I feel like this really is a shared leadership model through the approach, which is one of our tenets here in San Ramon Valley Unified, that we do support all of our students in that shared model. And so when they're going to ninth grade, we're coming in as a ninth grader, Hannah's going to have some lessons for them that are specifically giving them some thoughts around information science and digital literacy to integrate AI and awareness of, probably deep fakes and bias and those really scary things that our kids need to be reminded about. And then another part of their day, they're going to be in Lauren's forensic science class and having the opportunity to use AI for critical thinking, like through your very content specific and embedded blended lessons. I think we need to emphasize that it's not an all or nothing because it's just a tool. So as a lesson designer, as the craft of teaching, you're both thinking about what part of the lesson am I going to integrate this? And I'm going to be very specific about how they're going to use it. And then we can talk about the implications of that so that when they're working outside of our public education space, they have that confidence really. And that's just a beautiful shared leadership model. I know you guys have had a lot of positive impact. Like, what have been, just both of you, what's one thing, the most positive impact that you think you've had through this model that you've been discussing?
Oh, I think it's the increased literacy amongst staff. I think we calculated it's come out to about 25-star efforts. And again, this goes back to Kaizen, just small baby steps. And we continue just to think about the future and how we can support the wolf pack. Obviously, there's that aspect of technology fatigue because things are changing so rapidly. And of course, the anxiety around being replaced. And how do students learn now with generative AI being introduced into the mix? What about you, Hannah? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also kind of created, one of the things that our admin team, I so appreciate about them too, is that idea of the wolf pack. And I've learned that I think that's just San Ramon Valley High, is that they have such a strong community. Our parents and our staff and our admin, all of us are a part of that wolf pack. Our students, all of us are part of our students, and that we all are a partner and want to do its best and find out how can we both best support each other. And so I think that what's been, yay.
That's too cute, that community that you guys have. I love that.
It's unique. It is. Yeah. I grew up in this area. I went to Monte Vista and I loved Monte Vista. I've taught at 3 different schools and I loved all 3 of them. But there is something special about that wolf pack and being a part of that wolf pack, that when I have alumni come talk to me and they're like, oh my gosh, you're blah, 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 but didn't you go to Monte Vista? Boo. And I was like, what? Like, it is a very strong love. It's like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. But I think that this is exactly how this is just how our family works, right? This is just how San Ramon works, is that we are going to do this all together and we're going to figure this out together. And that is what our AI team does. We sit down and be like, okay, guys, what next?
So what challenges are you facing? What's working? What's not working?
Yeah.
How can we best support one another?
Being able to rely on Cindy and on Matt Robinson and not having to do this, just me, has been a huge relief. And doing this with Craig Box and Kim Murray and all of them have just been incredibly like, okay, what do you need? Charlie is constantly asking, what do you guys need? And trying to do whatever he can for our team.
I mean, a lot of layers of support have allowed you to have this work. And I love that you guys are acknowledging everyone, because that's how communities are built. And, that foundation of the wolf pack mentality, like, we're going to do this together, from classroom teacher to site administrator. And then, of course, you have district support as well, and board and community support. So that's exciting. Are there any challenges you want to just acknowledge? If there's someone watching and might be going through some of the same challenges, we all have challenges. Like, what are they and how have you approached them?
Full staff PD is probably going to take a long time. That has been one of the main problems. And honestly, I think more than anything, it's been time constraint. Our principals have a lot on their plate, and for 2 years, I've asked, can I do a staff AI PD? And he's like, how much time do you need? I can give you 3 minutes. And I'm like, I'll take it. So that has been one of the hardest challenges, is like, it'd be great if it was a 100% or 90% AI literacy at our school. But the way that we calculated that number is, we meet individually with the teachers. Like, just even last year, I met with, gotta make sure that there's a teacher out there. I got my students coming into my library and I'm like, Okay. I don't remember where I was. Can you?
Oh,
Just
we
time.
Distracted by
right?
my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But
the medium
even
number one.
even with like time constraints though, it sounds like you've been effective because just like any teacher, like you're creating small groups. You're going and finding another way. And sometimes that can have a higher impact too, because it feels more personalized as well. But yeah, definitely time is always of the essence. What other challenges have you guys faced?
Obviously there's some very serious ethical dilemmas around generative AI, right? Do we educate children to be thinkers or do we train them to be efficient machines, right? This goes back to the concept of way back when, I don't know if you remember this, but Taylorism, right? How
Yeah.
important is efficiency? I mean, we're talking about time management here.
Mhm.
That is definitely a concern.
Yeah.
Or are they just even managers of these tools? So, it's this balancing act of how do we develop critical thinkers with 21st century skills that can adapt to the challenges that generative AI is introducing, not only in the classroom, but in the working world as well. And of course, dealing with the cognitive offloading paradox. I know you've heard me talk about this. I probably talk about it too much, but
Never.
probably too. But if a student writes an essay with AI and then a teacher grades with AI, did any learning occur? That is one of those terrible questions that we are definitely asking ourselves, because we know you have to have some cognitive loading, you have to have a little bit of stress in order to retain, right? So there's that transference of learning, right? And then you want the desirable difficulty level.
I like how you talked just yesterday, or maybe today, I don't even know anymore, about it's kind of similar to listening to a lecture.
Yeah, it is. It is, and that same issue occurs if you give a lecture. How much of the lecture transferred in terms of what the students are going to walk away from, and actually learn from that lecture. So it's definitely, these challenges are new and yet old at the same time. So
I think
I love this dialogue. It's just showing the thoughtful approach that you guys are taking. It's so important. And with that, I know you've done a lot of research around this as well. Did you want to share any of the findings that you're kind of using to guide this dialogue at your site?
Absolutely. I mean, Stanford University came out with some interesting research, and you can find it online. They have this lovely 41-page paper from the AI Hub for Education, and they did some studies on K through 12 classrooms. The majority of it is actually focused on math and on students, not necessarily on the educator's perspective. And they had some interesting findings. One of the findings that definitely stands out is that we have mixed results when students work with an AI chatbot as far as their assessment scores. So they're going to perform very well with the AI chatbot. What happens when we remove it? And what we have found is mixed results. Some students do better, some students do worse. So I think this is really where the value of educators comes into play, because we understand how to scaffold things. So we would understand how to better gear those AI chatbots to be better tutors, so that students are retaining. There is that retention, and they're still having that desirable level of difficulty. That's so important when we talk about the science of learning.
And this is from the Stanford.
And this is from the Stanford University. Yeah, this is one of their big conclusions. It was part of their meta-analysis. And there's been a lot of publications since 2023. I think there's like 28 papers. Now we're up to 800 papers on this topic. So people are curious, people want to understand.
It's going to keep growing as the topic continues to, be a hot topic, because it's really it's required that we change the way we think about teaching and learning and assessing, for sure. And I know it's changed a lot of operations in businesses and across the world, but we are the ones that have the burden and the gift and the ability to be defining what that means for learning anymore for our kids. So defining that is what we're trying to grapple with. I mean, thinking of the future, what do you guys think this might look like moving forward?
Well, I think you put it best when you said that, generative AI right now is at its most primitive. So things are only going to evolve further. But I think as far as like future of our work together, I think we've talked a lot about how do we meet department specific needs and vet AI tools to support different departments, because what a humanities classroom needs versus a science classroom, very, very different. And then we want to make sure we're hitting those standards. And again, we want to make sure we're developing critical thinkers.
Yeah, of course. Amazing. So I know we're going to talk more after this interview about how to solve these problems as a team, but I just want to thank you both for your teacher leadership. You know, it's just really important to have time for each other, and you've really customized this plan at your site. And it's just really exciting to see the growth happening. I'm just really inspired by your philosophy at your site of just small changes that have a large impact. I think everyone can learn from that. So thank you for reminding us of that. I mean, are there any final thoughts that you both want to share before we bring this conversation to an end?
I wanted to say thank you to you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time.
It's been so fun. And I think that there's something really special, Kelly, about how I feel like I could approach you with all of this. And I said, hey, I want to make sure, since our site, since everything changed with ITL, I reached out to you to make sure that we were on the right track. And you went above and beyond. You came out to our site, and then you came to talk to us, and then you stayed and hung out. It was just, and then now we're able to continue talking and continue making sure that our students all across the district have the same opportunities that other districts also have. So I'm just grateful for you.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Anything else? Are you guys good?
I think we're good. Thank you so much, Kelly. And again, we really appreciate the way you empower educators and students alike with your support. Thank you.
Well, as you guys know, I'm a teacher at heart, and I feel like it's a privilege to have these conversations on these Tech Talks. The reason I do this is because I meet inspiring people all the time in the San Ramon Valley Unified School District, and when I get to hear the stories, I want to capture it so other people can hear it too, and we can elevate each other. So thank you guys for your work and your mentorship. And if you have questions, anybody can reach out to any one of us, because we're all here for the community. And have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you on the next Tech Talk when we learn from more San Ramon educators and the inspiring work they're doing. Have a great afternoon.